Welcome back to the Rise of the Zodiac Book Club. Today our task is to synthesize the season's evidence habits without forcing the corpus into one master theory.
That sounds like a topic where the exciting answer could arrive faster than the responsible one.
Which is why we will keep 3 labels: visible, verified fact, interpretation, and speculation. A fact is directly supported by the approved record or source. An interpretation explains a pattern in that evidence. Speculation means a possibility the evidence has not settled.
Our working question is, what do we gain when we compare across the canon while keeping uncertainty intact?
We will stay inside the episode's approved spoiler ceiling. We will identify only the evidence needed for the lesson, avoid unapproved endings, and preserve every uncertainty that matters.
Season 2's approved methods distinguish records from interpretations, chronology from causation, and collection lenses from verdicts.
That is a verified statement, but it still leaves us with a choice about how much weight to put on it.
I'm marking it as fact first. Any claim about meaning goes on a separate line so confidence cannot leak from the record into the interpretation.
The completed episodes preserve open questions when identity, intention, provenance, or passage-level evidence is absent.
That is a verified statement, but it still leaves us with a choice about how much weight to put on it.
I'm marking it as fact first. Any claim about meaning goes on a separate line so confidence cannot leak from the record into the interpretation.
The season uses locations, archetypes, eras, zodiac sets, symbols, memory, cross-references, and development history as different evidence problems.
That is a verified statement, but it still leaves us with a choice about how much weight to put on it.
I'm marking it as fact first. Any claim about meaning goes on a separate line so confidence cannot leak from the record into the interpretation.
Put those together, and we have a real evidence floor, not a complete theory.
That distinction is generous to the listener. We are not asking anyone to pretend that an index row is a scene, or that one vivid phrase proves a whole cosmology.
He is also generous to the canon. We do not make the source say more than it says merely because a larger claim would be convenient.
Let's name the shortcut directly. Synthesis should connect methods, not erase the differences among sources.
Why is that shortcut so tempting here?
Because recurrence and classification are excellent pattern finders. Once a pattern is visible, the mind wants to make it explanatory. But finding 2 things together is not the same as proving identity, cause, intention, or universal meaning.
The source hierarchy does not prohibit interpretation. It asks us to disclose the step. If we move from the record contents this to this messages that the second statement must be presented as a reading.
So the correction is not to become incurious. The correction is to make the bridge visible.
And if the bridge is missing,
then the claim remains open. We do not fill the gap with confidence.
Here is a supported reading labeled as interpretation. Reading across time changes the questions available to a reader more reliably than it supplies one final answer.
It is supportable because it stays close to the documented evidence, but it is not promoted to canonical fact.
and a reader can challenge it by returning to the same bounded evidence rather than having to accept our authority.
Here is a supported reading labeled as interpretation. The season's unifying skill is making the bridge between evidence and interpretation visible.
It is supportable because it stays close to the documented evidence, but it is not promoted to canonical fact.
And a reader can challenge it by returning to the same bounded evidence rather than having to accept our authority.
Notice that the two readings can coexist without becoming a master code.
I would draw the board as evidence on the left, reading on the right, and a question in the middle. What exact feature supports this move? If we cannot answer, the reading needs revision.
That gives disagreement somewhere productive to go. Instead of arguing about who feels right, we can ask which sentence, action, field, or boundary does the work.
Now test the lesson against resistance.
Synthesis should connect methods, not erase the differences among sources.
That resistance matters because a method that only confirms itself is not analysis. A useful reading must be able to say what will weaken it.
In this case, the limit is clear. A single master theory of Roth's is neither established nor required.
So uncertainty is not a hole in the episode. It is part of the result.
Exactly. We have advanced from an unbounded question to a supported lesson, while leaving the unresolved part in its proper place.
We should also avoid creator intent claims. Story behavior and metadata can support observations about the work. They do not automatically tell us why Jeremy made a choice, what private method he used, or which interpretation he prefers.
Let's make this reusable. What should a listener do the next time a pattern appears?
First, identify the stable object, file in passage, indexed assignment date, or artifact record. Second, state only what that object directly establishes. Third, propose a reading with an interpretation label. Fourth, look for a resistant example. Fifth, preserve what remains unknown.
And check the spoiler cost before bringing in more stories.
Yes, more evidence is not automatically better if it exceeds the approved scope. The strongest lesson uses enough evidence to be responsible, not every available detail.
That keeps the conversation educational rather than encyclopedic.
It also prevents metadata from swallowing prose. Indexes help us locate and compare. Stories remain the authority for what happens in the stories.
I like that the method does not demand agreement. Two people can share the evidence floor and still weigh an interpretation differently,
provided they do not relabel preference as fact.
What changed between the beginning of this conversation and now?
The topic became smaller and stronger. We stopped asking for a total explanation and found a bounded claim the sources can actually carry.
We also found a boundary case. That matters because the lesson now tells us where not to use it.
And we preserve the unresolved proposition: a single master theory of Roth's is neither established nor required.
That is the season's larger discipline. Reading across a large canon does not mean making every recurrence identical. It means comparing carefully enough to notice both connection and difference.
Verified fact. Season 2's approved methods distinguish records from interpretations, chronology from causation, and collection lenses from verdicts.
Supported interpretation. Reading across time changes the questions available to a reader more reliably than it supplies one final answer.
Unresolved or speculative, a single master theory of Roth's is neither established nor required.
Method. Retrieve carefully, compare within scope, label interpretation, test resistance, and leave uncertainty visible.
The satisfying part is that restraint did not make the episode empty. It made the insight traceable.
Evidence gives us a shared starting point. Interpretation gives us room to think. Clear labels keep one from impersonating the other.
And the open question is not discarded. It becomes the next honest question rather than today's invented answer.
That is where we will leave what changes when we read across time, with a stronger way to read, a bounded conclusion, and canon still intact.